So now that we've talked about what an ACL is, what the surgery may entail, let's actually get into what the rehab looks like. So the rest of this video, you're going to see it broken down in by months. We're going to have month 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then we'll break up the rest of it into just everything beyond 6 months. And the total time frame for ACL rehab is somewhere typically between 9 and 12 months. There are instances where you can come back earlier than that. There are instances where it will take longer than that. But if you look at the literature, in order to accomplish everything that you need to do in regards to regaining functionality, getting range of motion back, getting strength back, learning all of your previous tasks that you were doing from a sport specificity standpoint, activities of daily living, and getting back into overall reconditioning and just the same level of fitness that you were in prior, that's typically going to happen between 9 and 12 months. And if you look at the literature, you're going to have a reduced likelihood of re-injury by waiting until that 9-month mark or later. So if you are going to return prior to 9 months, it has to be a well-informed decision by yourself, your PT, the orthopedic, and all parties involved to make sure that it's a logical choice for you and you're doing everything in your power to put yourself in a good situation when it may be considered outside of the norms. As we progress through these months of rehab, keep in mind that your individual experience is going to be guided by what your orthopedic surgeon recommends and your PT team that you are working with. So as we go through this, we're speaking in generalities, but it may not be 100% matched up with what your individual experience looks like. For some people, you may encounter some of these activities a little bit earlier, some of them a little bit later, and that's going to be dictated by the type of surgery you had, your own unique experiences and goals, and ultimately how you are tolerating and performing things throughout. So keep that in mind. Let this serve as a framework, because the sequence of events will be very, very consistent regardless of who's watching this, but the timelines within each sequence may change a little bit. So month 1, this is, in my opinion, one of the more exciting parts of ACL rehab. You've had the injury, you've had the surgery, now you get to start the road to recovery. In our clinic, we typically see people somewhere between 3 and 5 days post-operatively. That may not be the case for you, but that's how we are seeing them in our clinic. Traditionally, though, you will get into PT no later than about 10 days post-operatively. The first month of ACL rehab is all about 4 main goals. First off, we want to protect the surgical sites. We want to make sure that we're not doing anything that's going to compromise what the orthopedic just spent all that time repairing and reconstructing. Your orthopedic and your PT will tell you kind of what the do's and don'ts are from an activity standpoint, utilization of crutches, and utilization of your brace if you were prescribed one. The other thing that we want to do is we want to manage symptoms. We want to get swelling down and we want to get pain levels down. Those are going to be 2 big things that are going to influence our next goal, which is restoring range of motion and getting as much back of our range of motion as we can. Notably, getting the knee all the way bent, which they'll refer to as flexion, and getting the knee all the way straight, which they'll refer to as extension. From a number standpoint, you will typically use your other leg as a guideline for what you are trying to get back to. 0 degrees means that you can get the knee all the way straight. So that's the one benchmark that you're going to want to work towards. And you may even have a little bit of hyperextension on that leg that you're attempting to get back as well. But think 0 degrees is kind of that minimum of what we want to get back from an extension standpoint. Flexion is going to vary. For larger individuals who have larger thighs and larger calves, you may top out at about 120 or 125 degrees of knee flexion or knee bend. For those that are a little bit more of a thinner leg, you may be able to get upwards of 135, even 140 degrees of flexion. But in that first month, we're trying to get back, hit that 120 mark as soon as we can. And from personal experience, I've found that if you can get to 90 sooner than later, then your odds of getting to 120 quickly and with less discomfort and with less effort is that much easier. We also want to focus on restoring neuromuscular control, or getting back that muscle memory. When they do the surgery, because of pain, because of swelling, if they had to do a nerve block or any sort of local or systemic anesthesia throughout the procedure, you may have a hard time getting your quadricep or your thigh muscle to fire. So your PT will spend time with you, giving you exercises and giving you tricks to get that quad muscle back to a full contraction. This muscle is going to be very important in regards to our next goal, which is getting back on our feet, initiating weight bearing, and normalizing our gait or our walking activities. By the end of month 1, ideally, we're off of crutches, we don't have a brace, we have very, what I call, predictable pain levels, meaning if it hurts, it's because we are doing something that's maybe a little bit more than what we've ever done, or something new that we have not encountered before. We don't have much swelling, we have ideal range of motion, and we are walking around without any significant gait abnormalities. Now, that's not the case for everyone, but I like to have lofty goals, and I think if you keep that in mind, that gives you something to shoot for at the end of month 1. And don't expect that to be perfect at the end of month 1. Some of those goals will filter into month 2 as well, but keep in mind, of all the things we can work on, those are the big ones that we want to prioritize in that first month.